corrupt head nurse slaps black intern in the ER, unaware. She's the secret wife of the ruthless Korean Mafia boss who controls the city's darkest secrets. In the chaos of a crowded emergency room, a power-hungry head nurse loses her temper and strikes a young black intern, believing no one will dare question her authority. Doctors freeze, patients stare, and security cameras capture everything. What she doesn't know is that the woman she humiliated is married in secret to the most feared Korean mafia boss in the underworld, a man who never forgives public disrespect. Before the night shift ends, the hospital's balance of power will change forever. The smack echoed. It wasn't just a sound, it was a detonation, a tiny, violent tremor through the sterile ER, ripping the thin fabric of what you've been conditioned to call order. Head nurse Karen, always a Karen, let's be honest. Her hand still stinging, hovered inches from Dr. Nia's cheek, the intern's dark skin now blooming with a furious crimson. Karen thought she owned the world, owned that intern, owned every single rule pasted to the hospital wall. She saw a subordinate, a nuisance, a black woman who dared to question her authority in front of exhausted doctors and terrified patients. You think this is just a story about workplace bullying? About racism? About some entitled nurse getting her comeuppance? You're missing the point entirely. That slap, that single brutal act of public humiliation, wasn't just a violation, it was the sharp, splintering sound of the matrix cracking. Everything you were ever taught about how society works, about who holds power, about the invisible lines you dare not cross, it's all a carefully constructed lie designed to keep you in line. And in that moment, in the fluorescent glare of an emergency room, a flimsy, fragile truth was about to be revealed. This wasn't just a nurse and an intern. This was the collision of two utterly incompatible realities. One built on the illusion of established power, the other a hidden, brutal force that respects nothing but its own iron will. You think the rules protect you? You believe in consequences? You trust the system? You have no idea what truly governs the shadows. If you're tired of the comfortable narratives, of the sugar-coated lies they feed you about how the world should work, then perhaps you're ready to see the raw, terrifying mechanics of how it actually does. That nurse, so confident in her little kingdom, had no damn clue she just slapped the wife of the most feared man in the Korean underworld. She thought she was disciplining a young doctor. She was actually signing her own death warrant, and probably the death warrants of everyone she ever thought protected her. Her world was about to be unmade. Yours might be too, if you're brave enough to keep watching. The illusion of professional decorum, the pretense of civility, it all collapses when you introduce an element that operates entirely outside the system's pathetic little boundaries. We are constantly fed this narrative of earned status, of rules and regulations, of consequence and justice that are supposed to be impartial. Bullshit. That's the bedtime story they tell you to keep you quiet, to keep you compliant, to keep you from ever questioning who really pulls the strings. The truth is, there are always bigger fish, deeper waters, and a raw, primal power that laughs in the face of your HR policies and your hospital protocols. Nurse Karen thought she was operating within the safe confines of a bureaucratic hierarchy, a place where titles and seniority meant something. Fool. Absolute, unmitigated fool. She thought the system would protect her. It won't. It never does when you poke a bear that doesn't recognize the system's authority. This isn't just about a cultural clash, it's about the fundamental misunderstanding of what real power looks like. Real power doesn't wear a uniform or carry a badge or clock in at 9 a.m. Real power moves in silence, operates through loyalty forged in blood, and exacts a price that HR departments could never even conceive of. And that power was about to descend upon that hospital like a biblical plague. You've seen movies, you've read headlines, you think you understand crime families. You don't. Not really. What you see is the curated, sanitized version. The reality is far more terrifying, far more absolute. It makes the hospital administration look like a toddler's tea party. So, here's the reality check. When you live inside a comfortable cage, convinced it's a palace, you forget there's an entire jungle outside. And in that jungle, the rules are simple: survive or die. Nurse Karen just walked into that jungle, blind and arrogant, and she had no idea the apex predator she just provoked. The quiet dignity of Dr. Nia after that slap wasn't submission. It was the terrifying calm before a storm. It was the moment you realize someone has just made an irrevocable mistake, one that will unravel their entire existence, brick by meticulously placed brick. You see the surface tension, the anger, the injustice, but I see the mechanism. I see the invisible strings, the levers of control, and how easily they snap when confronted with a force utterly indifferent to their existence. This incident wasn't an anomaly. It was a perfect storm, exposing the brittle nature of the societal construct we all pretend is solid. It's a testament to how utterly unprepared most people are for the real world, the one that doesn't care about your feelings or your rights or your deeply held beliefs. It only cares about power and who wields it. You might think justice is coming. You might think karma is a thing. But what's truly coming for Nurse Karen is something far more ancient, far more visceral, and utterly devoid of anything resembling justice or karma as you understand it. It's simply the consequence of violating a different set of rules. Rules that have existed since the dawn of man, long before anyone invented a hospital or a uniform. This isn't merely about a physical slap. That was just the spark. The fuel was the complete, utter disregard for authority, for hierarchy, for the unwritten laws that underpin everything. Nurse Karen, with her little lanyard and her laminated ID badge, thought she was wielding power. She was wrong. She was a child playing with a loaded gun, pointed squarely at an ancient sleeping beast. And now, the beast stirs. You, watching this, probably comfort yourself with the idea that rules protect everyone. They don't. Rules protect the rule makers and those who benefit from them. For everyone else, they're just suggestions, easily broken, easily bypassed, especially when true power decides they're inconvenient. Don't delude yourself into thinking justice is a universal constant. It is a construct, a fragile agreement. And when you insult someone whose entire existence is built on a different, more primal construct, the consequences are immediate, brutal, and entirely outside your understanding. Think about the absurdity. A professional setting, a workplace, and suddenly ancient tribal law descends. This isn't a grievance committee meeting. This isn't HR sending a strongly worded email. This is an entirely different level of engagement. Nurse Karen believed her uniform, her title, her hospital's policies would be her shield. Those are illusions. Thin air. They will dissolve the moment the true weight of this situation comes down. It's like believing a pretty white picket fence will stop a charging rhinoceros. Utterly naive. What is about to happen to Nurse Karen isn't about revenge in the petty sense. It's not about an eye for an eye in the way a street brawl might be. This is about restoration, about re-establishing a balance that was so brazenly, so ignorantly disrupted. It's about a demonstration, a cold, surgical lesson that will be administered not with shouts and threats, but with quiet, devastating precision. You won't see it coming. She won't either. That's the terrifying beauty of it. The invisible hand, the whispers that carry more weight than any public decree. A subtle shift in the air that signals an entire world is about to rearrange itself around one person's catastrophic misjudgment. Perhaps you think this is hyperbole. Perhaps you think I'm spinning a dark fantasy. But I'm not. I'm just describing how the world actually works for a significant portion of humanity, a portion that operates outside the brightly lit, sanitized corridors of your comfortable existence. They don't debate. They don't negotiate. They simply act. And their actions ripple, not like a splash in a puddle, but like an earthquake. If you value uncovering the hidden levers of influence and understanding the brutal truths beneath the surface, then perhaps you're one of us. consider sticking around. Now consider the power dynamic. Dr. Nia, a quiet professional. Nurse Karen, aggressive, entitled. The surface narrative screams workplace bullying, a simple HR issue. But peel back that thin layer, and you see something else entirely. Dr. Nia's family, they didn't need to shout. They didn't need to make a scene. Their very presence, their very reputation, was the weapon. A silent, ever-present threat to anyone foolish enough to cross them. And Karen, bless her ignorant heart, just walked headfirst into that buzzsaw, thinking it was a harmless garden gnome. This isn't about revenge in the petty sense. This is about restoring balance. This is about demonstrating the cost of disrespect. It's a brutal lesson. And Nurse Karen, in her ignorant arrogance, just volunteered for the masterclass. The consequences for Karen will not be a sudden dramatic downfall. That would be too merciful. This will be a slow, agonizing unraveling. 1,000 tiny cuts. Each one insignificant on its own, but cumulatively, they will bleed her dry. Her career, her reputation, her social standing, her sense of security, every single pillar of her meticulously constructed life will be systematically undermined. Not by direct attacks? No, that's too crude. It will be by strategically placed obstacles, by doors subtly closed, by opportunities inexplicably vanishing. She'll blame bad luck. She'll blame politics. She'll never, not truly, understand the invisible hand guiding her relentless descent. And that, my friends, is the most terrifying punishment of all. Not knowing who struck you or why. Just feeling the inescapable pressure, the walls closing in, until there's nowhere left to run. This is the difference between petty revenge and absolute power. One burns everything down. The other reconstructs reality itself around you until you're trapped in a cage of your own making, unable to escape. If the quiet hum of true influence fascinates you, if you suspect reality is far more layered than it appears, then this channel is your rabbit hole. Make sure you're subscribed. We're just beginning to peel back the layers. They don't send goons. That's a movie cliché. They leverage information. They exploit weaknesses. They understand the intricacies of social networks better than any algorithm. Imagine a spider web. Vast, invisible, every strand connected. Nurse Karen is a fly, buzzing clumsily into the center. Every movement she makes, every email, every phone call, every casual conversation sends vibrations through that web. And the spider? It feels everything. The hospital administration will conduct its internal investigation. They'll file their reports. They'll follow their protocols. But simultaneously, another, far more efficient investigation will be underway. One that delves into Karen's past, her habits, her vulnerabilities, her aspirations. Who are her friends? What are her financial pressures? Are there secrets she's desperately trying to keep hidden? These aren't questions HR would ever dare ask. But this other power, it thrives on them. It doesn't care about privacy rights. It cares about leverage. It will find the pressure points. It will identify the weaknesses. And then, with surgical precision, it will begin to apply pressure. Not a sudden crush. No, a slow, agonizing squeeze. Perhaps a colleague, someone she trusts, will subtly undermine her at work. Perhaps her meticulously planned future will suddenly hit unforeseen roadblocks. Maybe her car develops mysterious, recurring problems. Maybe her online accounts experience strange glitches. You think these are random occurrences. You dismiss them as coincidence. But the truth is, when a powerful entity decides to act, coincidence becomes its most potent weapon. The system is designed to make you doubt your own sanity, to make you question reality itself. And Karen, trapped in her comfortable cage of modern beliefs, will have no framework to understand what's happening. She'll spiral, she'll grow paranoid, she'll lash out. And every desperate, ill-advised action she takes will only tighten the invisible noose. Her colleagues will eventually distance themselves. Her superiors will see her as a liability. Her life, once orderly and predictable, will become a chaotic nightmare. And all of it, every single piece, will be a direct, unavoidable consequence of that single, thoughtless slap. Do you understand the chilling elegance of that? No overt threats, no physical violence, just the subtle, systemic dismantling of a life, piece by excruciating piece. This is the true face of power, not the loud, attention-seeking kind, but the quiet, absolute kind. The kind that doesn't need to ask permission. It simply reshapes your world. And the terrifying part? Most people, most of you, would never even recognize it. You'd just think Karen was having a string of bad luck. You'd pity her, maybe, but you wouldn't connect the dots. That's the beauty. That's the terror. This incident reveals the stark difference between law and order. Law is what's written down, debated, passed in legislatures. Order? Order is the unspoken agreement, the hierarchy of respect, the primal understanding of who holds sway. Karen broke the order, and the order demands recompense. It's a language older than words, a debt collected in a currency more valuable than money. Her future, her peace of mind, her very identity. That calm wasn't shock. It wasn't weakness. It was the deep, unsettling calm of someone who knows with absolute certainty that the scales are about to rebalance. She didn't need to yell. She didn't need to fight back. She knew. She felt the shift, the gears turning. The silent wheels of justice, or something far older than justice, already in motion. Her dignity wasn't a choice. It was a reflection of the power that stood behind her, unwavering, terrifying. And Nurse Karen saw only a woman, a victim. She couldn't see the colossus, the sheer, breathtaking ignorance. It's almost tragic, isn't it? This woman, so utterly convinced of her own righteousness, about to learn the most painful lesson of her life. A lesson that will redefine every single aspect of her existence, from her morning coffee to her deepest, darkest fears. And she still won't grasp it. Not fully. Not until it's too late to reverse course. Her world will shrink. Her options will disappear. She will become a cautionary tale whispered in hushed tones, long after her name is forgotten. That is the true nature of power. It doesn't just punish the offender. It uses them as an example. A grim reminder to anyone else who might consider stepping out of line. A silent, brutal declaration. These rules are absolute, and you will respect them. The hospital, the city, even the legal system itself, will eventually become unwitting instruments in this grand, silent opera of consequence. They will follow their procedures. They will process paperwork. Unaware that every step they take, every decision they make, has been subtly guided, nudged into place by forces they cannot perceive. This isn't conspiracy. This is simply the application of influence, of connections, of resources. It's the natural flow of power, unimpeded by the niceties of democratic process or the idealism of fairness. It's the jungle, and in the jungle, the only rule is the strong survive and the weak are recycled. Nurse Karen is about to be recycled. Nurse Karen is about to be recycled. She will receive a phone call. An HR meeting will be scheduled. Her initial thought? Defiance. Self-righteous anger. A misunderstanding, surely. Oh, how beautifully naive. Her little outburst, her petty power play, has just triggered a cascade, a finely tuned avalanche designed to bury her whole life, not just her job. She thinks it's an isolated incident, an unfortunate slip. She's wrong, terribly wrong. This isn't about one mistake. It's about a pattern that will suddenly, inexplicably, emerge from the shadows. Every minor infraction, every missed deadline, every grumbled complaint from a colleague she barely remembers will now surface. Magnified, distorted, made lethal. Do you really believe in clean slates? In objective investigations? Pure fantasy. The truth is, investigations are tools. They are scalpels wielded by the powerful to excise whatever they deem inconvenient. And Karen is very inconvenient. Her colleagues, those same people who laughed at her jokes yesterday, will suddenly develop selective amnesia, or worse, recall vivid details of her alleged incompetence. Some will just stay silent, their eyes darting away, terrified of being caught in the crossfire. Others will actively throw her under the bus, eager to curry favor with the silent, unseen architects of her downfall. They will see the writing on the wall. They will smell the blood. Her blood. This isn't a conspiracy. This is just human nature amplified by fear and self-preservation. It's ugly. It's brutal. It's real. The hospital administration? They will find themselves in an impossible position. Pressure will come from above, from outside, from places they can't even identify. Not a direct threat, no. More like a gentle, relentless nudge. A quiet insistence that standards must be upheld, that protocols must be followed, that accountability is paramount. And suddenly, Nurse Karen becomes the perfect example, the scapegoat, the sacrificial lamb. She will be audited, her patient charts scrutinized, every note, every dosage, every observation will be examined under a microscopic lens, not for errors, but for proof. Proof of her unsuitability, proof of her negligence, proof that she was a liability just waiting to happen. And they will find it. They always do. Because when the powerful want to find something, they invent the means to discover it, even if it requires bending reality itself. Her reputation? Shredded. Her career? Over. But it won't stop there. It never does. This kind of power doesn't just cut ties. It poisons the well. She'll try to find another job, anywhere. But suddenly, every background check will yield a vague, unsettling response. Every potential employer will politely decline, offering no explanation, their eyes betraying a knowledge they dare not speak aloud. She'll be blacklisted. Not officially, of course. That would be too messy, too easily challenged. No, this will be an invisible barrier, a silent consensus, a collective understanding that Nurse Karen is radioactive, unemployable. Her finances will crumble, legal fees will mount, savings will vanish, stress will consume her. She'll alienate friends, push away family. Her once comfortable life will shrink, confined to the ever-tightening walls of her own despair. She will stare at herself in the mirror and see a stranger, a broken thing, utterly bewildered by the sudden, inexplicable cruelty of the world. She won't connect the dots. She can't. Her mind simply isn't equipped to comprehend the scale of the forces that orchestrated her demise. She'll blame bad luck, a cruel twist of fate, anything but the truth. The truth is too terrifying to confront, that she was targeted, chosen, and systematically dismantled as a demonstration. This isn't about revenge. It's too cold for that. It's about order. It's about maintaining the intricate, invisible hierarchy that underpins our entire society. It's about reminding everyone, from the lowliest orderly to the most esteemed surgeon, that there are lines, unseen lines, and crossing them, even with the most trivial act of perceived dominance, comes with an unpayable cost. Nurse Karen, in her pathetic display of authority, touched something she shouldn't have. She threatened the quiet majesty of a colossus, and the colossus responded, silently. Absolutely. The silence is the most chilling part, isn't it? No grand pronouncements, no public condemnations, just a meticulous, precise erasure. Her existence, her legacy, her very identity will be dissolved, leaving behind only a whisper of what happens when you forget who you're truly dealing with. The world will simply move on, oblivious to the quiet apocalypse unfolding around one insignificant woman. And that, my friend, is the real power. Not the ability to destroy, but the ability to destroy so completely, so discreetly, that no one even notices the rubble. No one even notices the rubble. But why does no one notice the rubble? Because you've been trained not to see it. Trained to look away. to believe in fairy tales of justice and consequence. You were taught that if you work hard, you rise. If you're ethical, you're protected. Pure fantasy. Kindergarten stories for adults, carefully crafted to keep the machine running smoothly. Nurse Karen believed those fables, every single one. She believed in rules, in due process, her fatal error. This system, this intricate web of unwritten mandates, it doesn't care about your morals. It cares about its own self-preservation. It is a shadow government, not of politicians, but of influence, of tradition, of the sheer, unyielding weight of what has always been. Now consider this. Every piece of advice you've ever gotten, every inspirational quote, every story of overcoming adversity, it's all just lubricant for the gears. Keeps you striving, keeps you compliant, keeps you blind to the actual mechanisms of power. You think you're an individual, charting your own course? Laughable. You're just another character in a play, and the script was written long before you were born. Not by you, never by you. The choices you think are yours? Often just carefully curated options designed to funnel you down a predetermined path. The entire construct of our society, the very fabric of what you call reality, is nothing more than an elaborate control mechanism, a sophisticated illusion. This isn't about some grand conspiracy theory. This is simply how power maintains itself. It doesn't need secret meetings or whispered oaths. It needs your belief, your unshakable faith in the system's fundamental fairness, your willingness to accept the narratives handed down to you, no matter how contradictory they might become. That's the real genius of it. You become your own jailer, policing your thoughts, stifling your own dissent, all for the promise of a reward that rarely materializes, a promotion that never comes, a recognition that is always just out of reach. Nurse Karen's destruction wasn't a mistake. It was a reaffirmation, a boundary marker drawn in the sand, clear for anyone with eyes to see, a stark reminder that the game is rigged. The rules aren't for everyone, and the illusion of control, that's the most potent weapon of all. Keep the machine running smoothly. Nurse Karen believed those fables, every single one. She believed in rules, in due process, her fatal error. This system, this intricate web of unwritten mandates, it doesn't care about your morals. It cares about its own self-preservation. It is a shadow government, not of politicians, but of influence, of tradition, of the sheer, unyielding weight of what has always been. Now, consider this. Every piece of advice you've ever gotten, every inspirational quote, every story of overcoming adversity, it's all just lubricant for the gears. Keeps you striving, keeps you compliant, keeps you blind to the actual mechanisms of power. You think you're an individual, charting your own course? Laughable. You're just another character in a play, and the script was written long before you were born. Not by you. Never by you. The choices you think are yours? Often just carefully curated options designed to funnel you down a predetermined path. The entire construct of our society, the very fabric of what you call reality, is nothing more than an elaborate control mechanism, a sophisticated illusion. This isn't about some grand conspiracy theory. This is simply how power maintains itself. It doesn't need secret meetings or whispered oaths. It needs your belief, your unshakable faith in the system's fundamental fairness, your willingness to accept the narratives handed down to you, no matter how contradictory they might become. That's the real genius of it. You become your own jailer, policing your thoughts, stifling your own dissent, all for the promise of a reward that rarely materializes, a promotion that never comes, a recognition that is always just out of reach. Nurse Karen's destruction wasn't a mistake. It was a reaffirmation, a boundary marker drawn in the sand, clear for anyone with eyes to see, a stark reminder that the game is rigged. The rules aren't for everyone. And the illusion of control? That's the most potent weapon of all. You believe you're driving. Nonsense. You're strapped into the passenger seat, eyes fixed on a shimmering mirage called opportunity. They adjust the rearview mirror for you, show you just enough, not too much. You spend your life chasing that phantom, don't you? That perfect job, the ideal partner, the house with the picket fence, the whole damn package. You've been told it's waiting, just work harder, grind, sacrifice. You whisper those mantras to yourself, convincing yourself that your current misery is merely a temporary toll for future glory. This isn't just about economic striving, mind you. This extends to every facet of your supposed freedom. Think about the choices you make every single day, the brands you buy, the news you consume, the causes you champion. You feel empowered, don't you? Like a conscious consumer, an informed citizen. But what if those choices, the very parameters of your free will, are themselves carefully curated? What if the options presented to you are just different flavors of the same manufactured consent? You pick between two political parties, both ultimately serving the same financial masters. You choose between countless consumer products, all produced by a handful of megacorporations. Freedom, then, becomes the mere selection from a pre-approved menu. A gilded cage, perhaps, but a cage nonetheless. And the walls? They're built from the very narratives you internalize. This isn't some grand, smoky backroom conspiracy with shadowy figures pulling levers. That's too crude, too obvious. The true genius lies in its subtlety. It's in the air you breathe, the songs you hear, the stories you're told from childhood. It's cultural conditioning, a pervasive, insidious form of soft power that shapes your desires before you even know you have them. You want what you're told to want. You value what you're taught to value. We are, all of us, products of an intricate, self-reinforcing cultural machine. It tells you success looks a certain way. It tells you happiness requires certain possessions. It dictates what's normal, what's desirable, what's even possible. And woe betide anyone who dares to define their own metrics. They are swiftly, subtly, often unknowingly marginalized, cast out, called radical, called unrealistic. Nurse Karen? She wasn't radical. She was just naive. She believed the script. The system doesn't need force when it has culture. It doesn't need explicit commands when it has implicit norms. Consider the classic case of the company town, a relic from an earlier industrial age, but a perfect metaphor for our present. Workers lived in houses owned by the company, bought groceries at the company store, their children attended the company school. Every aspect of their lives, from their income to their leisure, was intertwined with and dependent on the single entity that also employed them. They had choices, sure. They could choose between two types of bread at the company store or between going to the company church or staying home. But the fundamental dependency? Unbreakable. Their entire world was defined by the company's parameters. They were free to move within the walls, never to question the walls themselves. Now, lift your gaze from that historical example and look around. You're not in a literal company town, no. But the mechanisms? They've merely evolved. They've become diffused. The company is now society, the economy, the media. Your house might be mortgaged to a bank, not owned by your employer, but the pressure to maintain that mortgage. That lifestyle, that status, it's just another leash. The school system, designed not to foster critical thought in the masses, but to produce compliant workers and consumers. The news, shaping your perception of reality with carefully selected facts and strategically placed outrage, directing your attention away from the actual levers of power. Your choices feel real. They feel earned. They feel yours. But they are, more often than not, the pre-approved options that keep you embedded, engaged, and most importantly, unquestioning. Maybe you find that cynical, too dark. I honestly don't care. It's the truth, raw and unvarnished. This pervasive control isn't malicious in the way a Bond villain is malicious. It's far more chilling. It's systemic. It's the inherent logic of any complex organism, to survive, to grow, to perpetuate itself. And you are part of its metabolism. Your hopes, your fears, your ambitions, they are all raw materials. When you strive for that promotion, when you buy that new gadget, when you conform to societal expectations, you are, in essence, feeding the beast. You are affirming its legitimacy. You are, quite literally, keeping the machine running. And the moment you stop believing, the moment you step off the conveyor belt, the moment you truly see the strings, that's when you become a problem. That's when you become Nurse Karen. And the system, in its cold, logical pursuit of self-preservation, has ways of addressing problems. They don't need to send agents to your door. They don't need direct censorship, your peers, your family, your own internal monologue. They become the enforcers. Don't rock the boat. Be realistic. Why are you so negative? These aren't just well-meaning advice. These are whispers from the system, amplified by those around you, echoed by the fear planted deep inside you. You become your own jailer, policing your thoughts, stifling your own dissent, all for the promise of a reward that rarely materializes. A promotion that never comes. A recognition that is always just out of reach. Nurse Karen's destruction wasn't a mistake. It was a reaffirmation. A boundary marker drawn in the sand, clear for anyone with eyes to see. A stark reminder that the game is rigged, the rules aren't for everyone. And the illusion of control? That's the most potent weapon of all. The game isn't merely rigged, it is a painstakingly constructed reality. Your reality. Every ambition you chase, every lurking fear, every fleeting triumph, every defiant whisper, they are, in truth, pre-approved reactions. They are meticulously designed responses within a grand, invisible architecture you were never meant to question. This system, this insidious web, it doesn't need to lie overtly, to fabricate grand deceptions. No, its genius is far more chilling, far more elegant. It simply ensures you never encounter the real truth. The kind of truth that would rip apart its delicate yet dominant architecture with the force of a supernova. You weren't merely taught facts in school, in media, in casual conversation. You were taught how to perceive reality. You were taught how to desire, what to crave, what to despise. You were taught how to be, how to define your identity within its parameters. This, my friend, is the ultimate fraud perpetrated upon your existence. Your consciousness itself, that unique spark you believe is purely your own, is insignificant, terrifying part, a curated product of their making, an algorithm of beliefs and values downloaded into your operating system at birth. It's a subtle infiltration, a psychological colonization. They didn't need overt chains, no iron shackles or prison cells. They built your mental landscape, neuron by neuron, expectation by expectation, shaping the very boundaries of your imagination. Think about it. That relentless yearning for the perfect job, the flawless partner, the newest gadget, the social affirmation, where do these seemingly primal, deeply personal urges truly originate? Are they uniquely yours, organically sprouted from your individual soul? Or are they merely echoes of a manufactured narrative, whispered into your subconscious from birth, amplified by every glowing screen, every expertly crafted advertisement, every reinforcing comment from a well-meaning relative, every algorithm designed to keep your attention captivated? You are not just living in the machine, you are intrinsically of it. Your hopes are its potent fuel, your despair, its lubricant, and your unwavering conformity, your desperate need to fit in and belong, that's the very glue that holds its intricate structure together, ensuring its perpetual motion. To question this, to even hint at its artificiality, is to invite the quiet, systemic pressure that crushed Nurse Karen, a cautionary tale for all who might dare to glimpse beyond the veil. It's to become an anomaly, a rogue variable, a glitch in the matrix that the system must rectify, not with crude violence, but with insidious isolation, with the corrosive acid of self-doubt, with the slow, deliberate erasure of your relevance, pushing you to the margins until you either re-engage or fade away. So, now what? Do you lash out, raging impotently against this leviathan, screaming your defiance into a void that seems to swallow dissent? Do you try to run, desperately hoping to find some untainted patch of earth, some untouched sanctuary beyond its reach? The brutal, unvarnished truth is this: there is nowhere to run to. Not physically, not intellectually, not spiritually. The true freedom, the only real escape, isn't found in physical flight. It's found in seeing the cage. It's in the horrifying, yet utterly liberating realization that the bars confining you aren't made of steel or concrete or laws etched in dusty tomes. No, those bars are made of belief. Beliefs meticulously installed deep within your psyche, beliefs you've grown to fiercely defend, often with a passion you mistake for your own deepest convictions. They are the invisible walls of your manufactured reality, permeable only to those who dare to question their very foundation. And once you see them, once you truly recognize the invisible puppet strings attached not merely to your physical limbs, but to your innermost thoughts, your most private emotions, your very sense of self-worth and purpose, your entire world doesn't just change. It shatters. It disintegrates into a million fragments of illusion, of what you once held sacred. This isn't a gentle awakening, a serene dawning of new understanding. No, it's a violent, cataclysmic implosion of everything you thought was real, everything you built your life upon. It's a brutal, terrifying, yet utterly exhilarating authenticity that rushes in to fill the void. The old comfort, the predictable path, the reassuring lies, the narratives that soothed your anxieties, they are gone, replaced by a raw, uncomfortable clarity that strips away all pretense. You become an outsider, even among those you love, for they still slumber within the dream, incapable or unwilling to perceive the deception. This newfound sight is a lonely burden, a solitary freedom. The choice was never if you would play the game. You were born into it. The choice was always, brutally, if you would ever realize it, if you would ever lift your head from the distractions and truly see. The true rebellion, then, isn't defying the rules. It's seeing with stark clarity that those rules are merely suggestions, whispers of control, internalized so completely, they became your entire universe. They became you. And now, you have seen behind the curtain. What you do with that shattering, uncomfortable knowledge, that, my friend, is where your true story begins, where you stop being a character in someone else's script, where you finally choose to open your eyes,